Picture this. You're about to hit send on a really important email and just then your laptop crashes. Or maybe an old friend comes out of the woodwork and starts acting really shifty. Or your carefully planned summer holiday just hits snag after snag after snag. If this sounds familiar, you may already be experiencing Mercury Retrograde's shenanigans, which are coming to us this summer from July 18th until the 11th of August. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we break down current astrological events and bring them back down to real-world applications to help you get ahead on your goals and live a peaceful and masterful life. So let's break down why this retrograde is especially important, what it means for you based on your rising sign, and how to move through it without losing your mind. Mercury retrograde happens 3 times every year. It's an optical illusion that makes it look like Mercury is moving backwards in the night sky. Mercury rules communication, short-term travel, technology, especially communication technology, our mind and our memory. Mercury retrograde is an invitation to think differently, to use different models, to use different thinking patterns, and use different parts of our brain. Unsurprisingly, this can be a very confusing experience. And Mercury retrograde is also known to cause a couple of tech glitches when things are not behaving the way that they normally would, when communication doesn't flow in its usual standard established pattern. For those who were born during a Mercury retrograde, which is not that uncommon seeing as it happens 3 times a year, these tend to be a lot easier. It tends to feel a lot more natural to you if you have Mercury retrograde in your natal chart. But even then, you may find yourself a little taken aback by how quickly your mind suddenly works and how quickly you are able to process things. Every retrograde, not just the Mercury retrograde, is essentially a 3-act setup. You have the pre-retrograde shadow, which in this case started happening on June 30th. And this is essentially your setup where things start, where a story begins to take shape and come into your life. Even though you don't really know where it's going to go yet, you might not have paid particular attention, but people come into your life, situations start developing, which are going to be the initiator, essentially, of what is going to happen. Then you have the retrograde itself. In this case, the retrograde is happening from July the 18th until August 11th. This is the chaos phase, where things that we thought we had under control, things that we didn't really spare too much thought into, may take an unexpected turn. And then you have the post-retrograde shadow, which is essentially the planet, in this case Mercury, returning to the position it was in before it started retrograding. This is the resolution. This is the final act. This is where things start untangling and finally making sense again. The end goal of this entire retrograde, essentially. Any transits that the planet makes to your natal chart during this time are repeating 3 times as a result. Once in forward motion, then in backward motion, and then again for a second time in forward motion. So if you do have any personal Mercury transits around this time frame, do pay close attention to them, because this is a really important lesson for you to learn. And that's the key thing here, really, because life is just trying to teach you a lesson. And some lessons are really fun, some lessons not so much. But the idea is to learn and grow and move on from it. And this is where astrology comes in as such a helpful tool, because rather than try to piece these random bits together, we have so much information coming at us. It's really difficult sometimes to figure out why something is happening and what you are actually supposed to learn and gain from it, unless you are very deeply introspective. Astrology can come in and it can kind of guide you towards, okay, I can't tell you how you're going to learn this lesson, but open this book and open this chapter, and that's the direction where you need to look. And then it's much easier to figure out the rest by ourselves. This Mercury retrograde is completely contained within the sign of Leo, so Mercury is not going to change signs during its retrograde. So the themes of Leo are amplified. This Mercury retrograde is here to help us step into our main character energy with probably a hefty dose of drama along the way. Leo is the king of the jungle. Leo is ruled by the sun, the center of our solar system. And this is the energy that Leo brings. It's main character, all eyes on me. Everything becomes more powerful and more dramatic. So when Mercury is in Leo, words really have power. They have flair. Everybody gains that little bit of extra charisma. Silence becomes loud and unbearable. Leo does not want to sit around in silence and daydream. Leo wants to be center stage. So while Mercury is in retrograde, miscommunications could happen around any heart-centered issues, anything that touches you deeply to your core, to the core of your being. There could be miscommunications around any kind of creative projects, creative outlets, creative hobbies, or around emotional honesty. You know, Leo loves the drama, it loves the big emotions, it loves being center stage, but it's not a sign that's dishonest or scheming. It's out there. All of it is out there, essentially, for everybody to see. It doesn't hide anything. So as a result of this increased power, we could see miscommunications hit a lot harder than usual. Think, you're complimenting someone's outfit and they take it as a personal offense to their entire life, and you're left there scratching your head wondering what just happened. Think about ego clashes in relationships. Think about sending texts or emails to people who are no longer in your life that you may later on regret, or accidentally sending the text or email to the wrong person and causing even more drama and even more chaos. So even tech glitches take on a dramatic flair. There's an outage and it doesn't just affect 3 people, it affects your whole city. But the thing that brings it back a little bit more onto the personal level is that we have surprisingly few aspects, at least global aspects, that Mercury is making during this retrograde. We have a sextile with a Venus on the day that it goes retrograde, and another sextile with Mars after it goes direct again. And then, of course, we have the cazimi, which is where Mercury conjoins the Sun, which is going to be the one day of clarity, the one aha moment where the resolution of whatever situation has been coming up for you is starting to take shape, where your sat nav in life kind of springs back on and you realize, oh, okay, that's where I'm supposed to be going. But other than that, there aren't really any global aspects that Mercury is forming. So that tells us that this is a transformation that's happening more on a personal level. The king or the queen, which is you, by the way, represented by this Mercury and Leo energy, has to get their head straight, probably more in private, before you are able to face the world again with your new way of thinking and communicating. So now let's come to the interesting part on how and where, most importantly, this Mercury retrograde is going to show up in your life. And for this, you do need to know your rising sign, for which you need a fairly accurate time of birth. It's just a lot more accurate this way. Sun sign astrology does have its merit, but it is notoriously inaccurate. So if you really want to get a good read on what's going to happen and which area of your life is going to be affected, you do need to know your rising sign. And there are many, many tools out in the internet where you can calculate that if you don't know yours. So let's start with Aries rising. Aries rising, there's a reevaluation for you coming in terms of children or creative identity and passion projects. Some old dreams might get reignited. And the number one question that you need to ask yourself is, are you having enough fun in your life? And if not, how can you incorporate more of that? For Taurus rising, the area of home, family, Anything that gives you a stable grounding base that you can return to is going to get reevaluated. This is where communication mishaps may happen. This may be a time to either redecorate your home or reconnect with those that you share your home with. Is your home fit for a king or queen? And how can you make it more so? Gemini rising, this is all about communication, your voice, and potentially siblings. So do double check anything that you send and say to your siblings. This is about communicating with clarity. And because Mercury is the planet of communication, you do need to be particularly careful with anything that you say and that you send. Double, triple check everything during this time. And ask yourself, where can your voice, your method of speaking and thinking bring people together? For Cancer rising, this is all about your money and your self-worth. Again, do double check anything that you send to your accountant, to your bank, to your landlord, any matters revolving around assets and worth and finances. And consider whether the way you speak, both to yourself and to others, really does reflect your true value. Leo rising, this is an identity reboot for you. This is more about how you speak to yourself, but also whether or not your actions really align with the person that you are or want to be, doesn't matter, in your mind. Virgo rising, for you, this is about the hidden element, the subconscious, the hidden thoughts, the dreams. You may see recurring messaging happening in your dreams, so it may be a good time for you to keep a dream journal and consider what are some thoughts that you are too afraid to speak out loud. Libra rising, for you this is all about social groups and friends. Now with a Libra rising, you tend to be somebody who is usually quite balanced and quite considered with the way that they express things. So if somebody misunderstands you, that can hit you really deeply. Again, remember this is a retrograde. Everybody's mind is a little bit scrambled, so don't take it too personally, but instead see how you can reconnect and where, instead of being the mediator, you can actually take the lead in your friendship groups or any organizations that you are part of. Scorpio rising, for you this is all about career and visibility. So for you, very important to be very considered and check anything that you send related to your work, to your job or to your business. And also the question that you need to ask yourself is whether you are advocating enough for yourself or in the right way for yourself at your work. Sagittarius rising, for you this is all about beliefs, philosophy, religion potentially, and higher education and travel. So if you are in higher education, if you are in any religious, spiritual or philosophical groups, this is where you need to watch out for any miscommunications, any kind of issues along that way. And the question that you are being asked to ask yourself is whether your higher goals have been reviewed recently enough and whether or not they do actually still align with who you are and what you want in your life. Capricorn rising, for you, this one is going deep. It's going into the kind of taboo topics that we don't talk a lot about. Debt, sexuality, deep psychological issues. There may be some emotional or financial entanglements that you're going to be asked to dig really deeply into. What uncomfortable conversation have you been avoiding with those closest to you? Now, the Mercury retrograde may not be the time to have those conversations. It's the time where you gain clarity that this conversation is necessary. Aquarius rising, for you, this is going to show up in your partnerships. This can be a love relationship, or this can be a business relationship, or any kind of close-knit relationship that you have with people. Do watch your words, do watch out for any issues around these, any miscommunications, any hiccups, and ask yourself how you feel about the balance of give and take within your close relationships. Is there anything that needs to be addressed and adjusted? Pisces rising, this is about your routines and your wellness. You may experience delays with issues where you have been pushing yourself a little bit too hard. So make sure that you don't forget to prioritize yourself and that you reset your nervous system before it gets overly frazzled. So as with any planetary retrograde, the themes that come up during it are connected to the essentially, to rethink, review, re-evaluate. This is what a retrograde invites us to do. You really want to avoid jumping into any decisions that are going to have long-term consequences for you. So think things like major purchases, signing contracts, work contracts or leases, etc. Starting a new job. Now, having said that, sometimes it can't be helped. And also if it was something that was already planned before the retrograde and it just so happens that, you start a new job or you sign the contract during the retrograde, but you have already done all your research and all of your thinking before that, then you're fine. You just don't want to rush any of these things. If you're signing a new lease, for example, but you have already viewed the apartment or the house before the Mercury retrograde, and it just so happens that the signing falls during the retrograde, again, you should be fine. But just have that little extra bit of careful checking. So you just basically don't want to rush into anything. If the idea comes up during Mercury retrograde and you already commit yourself during the retrograde as well, this can sometimes lead to regret later on because you just weren't able to think and see things clearly. Anything to do with scheduling, your appointment, your travel plans, just double and triple check them. Don't go by something that you remembered because our memories can fool us a little bit during Mercury retrograde. Make sure you read the fine print before you sign anything and back up all of your technology. When's the last time you backed up your laptop and your phone? If it's a while ago, do it now. It doesn't take long. And if you don't already, keep a journal. Keep track of any recurring patterns, of any recurring conversations that you have, of anything that kind of keeps subtly or not so subtly coming into your mind, because writing these down is going to help you to gain clarity, especially with the backwards and forwards motion and the way that our thinking changes. Take the focus and the pressure off of your mind with practices like breath work, like EFT tapping, or just a good old walk in nature. Or even if you don't have any nature, just walk it out in the city. That really, really helps to kind of reset the mind and gain that mental clarity. And if your plans are delayed, if things fall through, don't look at it as a punishment. Look at it as an invitation. There's an opportunity there somewhere. You may just need to look a little bit harder to find the opportunity. Maybe your connecting flight is delayed and you're really annoyed about it because it's eating into your holiday, but actually you can see it as, okay, I am already on holiday. Now I get an extra day in another city. Maybe I can go and explore that city. How can I make the most of it? How can I grab the opportunity in what is happening for me, not to me? So this retrograde is not so much about disaster, it's about discovery, especially of who you are when things don't go to plan. What themes are already showing up for you? Are they correlated with your rising sign? Please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to understand how Mercury is affecting and lighting up your personal chart, you can book a one-to-one consultation with me through the link in the description box. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.